What's up, guys, and welcome to my channel, Real Talks with John. There was something about this title that you liked, you clicked it, you're here, you want the scoop. I'm here to give it to you. Let's not prolong the time. So a little bit about myself and this career that I'm going to be talking about is I am a speech language pathologist. Now, no one ever knows what it is that we do, including my family. Some of them still think that I help people make speeches. I remember I had a family member walk up to me one time and they were like, "You know, John, you're gonna make a really good speech for the president one day." I'm like, thank you, but that's not what I do. Speech pathologist, we pretty much assess, diagnose, and treat individuals with communication and swallowing disorders. The most popular ones would probably be stuttering. We work with the stutterers, people who have had a stroke and lose their ability to talk after, kids who are late talkers or say things like wabbit instead of rabbit, they have articulation issues. We do all that good stuff. It's a very rewarding career. I have 3 degrees in this profession, bachelor's, a master's, and a clinical doctorate. I went to South Carolina State University, shout out to the Bulldogs, and I attended Northwestern University. And, you know, I have done very well for myself. I've been practicing for about 8 years now. I make 6 figures. I work in the Los Angeles area. I have my own business. I would say that I am pretty successful in this field. So why are you leaving? Well, aside from the fact that this is a very rewarding career. You can work in hospitals, nursing homes, private practice, clinics, schools, home health. You can work for yourself. I mean, there's endless opportunities with lots of money to be made. You get to help people, you get to save lives, change lives, but there are definitely some issues. SLPs, speech language pathologists, face burnout at significant levels. There are very little safeguards that protect us in specific settings, aside from the fact that sometimes your clinical judgment is tossed to the side. There is one major issue that has plagued my entire career and that has ultimately left me with the decision to say, I'm done. And that is racism. Yep. And before you start typing out in the comments right now, are you serious? Are you crazy? Racism is everywhere. No one leaves their job because of racism. Racism might be everywhere, but it doesn't mean that I have to deal with it. I'm not going to deal with it, and I am putting my foot down. So Black speech language pathologists make up about 3.6% of speech pathologists in this profession. So you have to think about that number and consider that Black males make up significantly less than that 3.6%. With that being said, one of the major pitfalls in this career is you are going to be a minority. If you look like me or if you're a person of color, you are going to be a significant minority in this profession. And I always have this running joke when I go to jobs or conferences. I like to call myself a unicorn because I am a Black male speech therapist in a white female dominated profession. And as cute, cuddly, and unique and fun as we like unicorns to be, my experience in this field has been everything but that. So let's get into some of the specific examples that I have dealt with over the years that have ultimately led me to this decision. I remember starting out at South Carolina State University, working on my bachelor's and my master's degrees, and just being really excited to become a speech pathologist. My friends and I, we would have study groups all the time and talk about all the wonderful things that we were going to do, how exciting this career is, the endless opportunities, the money, and the impact that we were going to make on our clients and their families' lives. I mean, we were really excited. And one of the benefits of going to an HBCU is your professors look like you. My professors were strong, educated, intelligent African-American women who knew what they were doing, who were very skilled in the profession, taught us what we needed to know, and they prepared us for the reality that we are entering into a female-dominated white profession. I remember having conversations with my mentor about what this will look like, what my experiences would probably be based on the experiences that she dealt with. And, you know, one thing that I've learned in life is someone can tell you something, but it doesn't really prepare you for the reality of the situation until you actually deal with it. We have these national conferences in our field. It's our head organization, and they put on a national conference every year. One of my classmates and I, we were excited to go. It was going to be our first conference. It was our senior year. So we were excited to go and network and meet other professionals, meet the professionals who wrote our textbooks, and just look for jobs. It was going to be in Atlanta. And I mean, we were just like really thrilled to go. But when we got there, we were met with the most unwelcoming experience. I mean, people were looking at us like we did not belong. It was very apparent they did not want us to be there. We were given the nastiest stares, glares. I mean, people were looking at us like we were animals fresh out of the zoo, and our zookeeper let us out without our leash. People were walking up to us, confusing us for venue workers, asking us if we were supposed to be at the conference. And I mean, it was a very shocking experience. This went on for the entire 3 days that we were at the conference. And I mean, people did not try to hide their feelings at all. It was almost like they wanted us to know, they wanted it to be in our face that we don't want you here and we don't think that you should be here. And I remember we left that conference really let down, very confused, angry, upset. I remember calling my mentor and I was like, can you believe this just happened to me? And she's like, yeah, this is what we've been talking about. This is what I've been trying to prepare you guys for. The reality that you are going to have to deal with some of these things when you get into this profession. I was not ready to deal with that reality. Before this, had never had any issues or dealings with discrimination or racism. I certainly knew about it. I knew people that had experienced it. Of course, you see it in the news. We read about it in the history books. But I had never had any personal experiences with it until then. Fast forward a few months later, we go to our local conference in South Carolina, pretty much the same concept. And we really wanted to go because it was time to network and get jobs. We were getting ready to graduate. We go to this conference and had a pretty similar experience. There was a very specific part of the conference, the job fair section of the conference, that we decided to go to. So we were going around table to table, talking to different school districts, handing out our resumes, and requesting interviews for the upcoming school year. And there was one particular school district where everyone was going to, and we looked and we realized it was one of the major school districts in South Carolina. I won't say the name, but it's a very historical city where a lot of people go to visit for vacation. So we were like, all right, bet we're gonna go over there. We get to the table and the lady's like, can I help you? And we're like, yeah, we want to sign up for interviews and we want to, try to get a job with you guys. And she was like, she took the paper. We're no longer taking names. And it was like, but we just saw mad people come to this table and sign up. And she's like, yeah, but we're no longer taking names. That blow to your confidence, that blow to see and experience something so blatant, you question, why me? Why us? And you are only left with one thing. It was very disheartening. It was also, again, confusing. And I just felt really let down. And remember, this is before I even got in the profession. Fast forward to my first job. I decided to take a job. I was going to be working on my master's at the same time. It was going to be at a school district very close to my university. And I was really excited about it because I met the special education department. They seemed really nice. They talked about all of the resources that they had and how nurturing they were going to be because I was a new graduate. And I'm just like, okay, this is going to be a really good experience. I was ready. I was ready to put into practice what I have been learning about for 4 years. I felt like this was going to be a good opportunity, but I had no idea that this was going to turn into one of the most traumatic experiences of my life. Before the school year even started, teachers and school professionals have to go to the school to set up their classrooms, make it look really nice and neat for the kids. My classmate and I went to my classroom to decorate it. I had this Hollywood theme. As we're decorating my classroom, one of the teachers walked to the class and she was like, "Hi, who are you?" And, I explained to her that I was a speech therapist and I was going to be working there. And she was like, "Oh, okay." And she walks off. And my classmate and I were looking at each other like, what the heck just happened? And that was pretty much my introduction and continuance for the year and a half that I was there. As the school year progressed, a lot of things stuck out to me. One was the fact that I was the only black male in the school, and there was only one or two other black teachers. And, this didn't bother me, but it played into my experience. So that was the first thing that stuck out to me. The second thing was nobody was rocking with me. Like, you had a few people who would speak and, they would be kind, but the majority of the teachers there, they did not want to talk to me. I'm from the South, and we wave hello to people as they drive by, even though we don't know them. We say good morning to everyone. And it was like, that's what I was accustomed to. So I would come into school and speak to everyone, and I would get like glares back. People didn't want to talk. And again, it was like this feeling of not being accepted, this feeling of not being wanted there. Like, you don't belong here. We don't want you here. From then on, I dealt with bullying, harassment, discrimination. There were a group of teachers there. It was about maybe 3 or 4. Anytime I did anything, they were going to run to the principal to tell. I would be 2 minutes late for work. They would tell the principal. I would forget to do something. Anything. There was one time I burnt something in the microwave, and they went to the principal. The principal came down to my room and she was like, "I was told that you burnt something in the microwave." And it was this huge deal. Anything that I did was made to be this egregious issue. And this caused my principal and my superiors to start to micromanage me. Now, the only reason why I know about this is because I had about 2 or 3 teachers walk up to me and say, "Listen, we want you to be careful because everything that you do will be reported to the principal. There's about 3 teachers here. They have journals, they have logs, and they are going to be reporting you. So be careful." And I'm just like, why am I the target? Why is there a Jonathan committee? We're going to snitch. Like, what is going on? It was confusing, but I just let it ride. From then on, they would just make my experience there miserable. No one would speak to me. They would walk back and forth from my classroom to see what I was doing. They would question me all the time. And it was an unpleasant experience. There was one incident where they were having an ice cream social for the teachers, and I did not want to go because I knew that there were going to be issues there. I didn't go, but they called my classroom and they were like, "Mr. White, come down and get your ice cream. We got some ice cream in here." And I was like, okay, whatever. So I went down, and those little sundae cups, those little cups of ice cream, I go to get mine, and it's already there at the table waiting for me. They made sure to let me know that that was mine. The top was off, and it was like swooped in or licked. And I was like, okay, this is getting really out of hand. One teacher in particular who made sure she was going to let me know that I wasn't wanted there was the gym teacher. She would never speak to me. I would speak to her. She would not respond. She would, give me the nastiest looks. She would roll her eyes at me in the hallway. Whenever I would get students from her classroom, she would give me a hard time. She would question me. She would walk back and forth between my classroom to see if I was in there, if I was doing the right thing. One incident in particular, she worked in the front office. At the time, we had paper sign-in logs. So you would come in the morning, you would write your time down, you would leave, write your time down. And one day I went to sign out, and I noticed that someone had scratched out my time to reflect that I was like 2 or 3 hours late. was like, who's messing with me? So I just scratched it out, put it back. And the next time it happened again. And the third time, I was livid. I was pissed. So I wrote the principal and I CC'd everyone that worked in the office, including her. I didn't hear any response that day, but the next morning, I am in my classroom and she walks in and she's like, I need to talk to you. I'm like, okay. And she starts crying and she says, I'm going to confess. It was me. And I don't know why I've been treating you this way. I don't know why I do the things I do toward you.
I've been listening to the devil and not God.
True story. And at the time, as shocking as it was to hear that, I felt validated. I felt like, okay, finally, someone tells me I haven't done anything to you, but we're going to do everything we can to mess with you. And it was just this overwhelming feeling of, now someone admits it, but why? Why is this happening? And you blame it on the devil? So literally she leaves my classroom. 5 minutes later, I get an email from the principal and she says, I want to let you know, the secretary told me that she scratched out your sign-in time to reflect that you were late because that's the time you were coming in. And I'm like, that's odd because the gym teacher just walked in and confessed. And we need to have a face-to-face because I'm beginning to feel harassed. And I remember going in her office and just bawling, like crying my eyes out and explaining to her what my experience had been. Up until this point, it was like a year and some change. I had returned the next year and I just told her, like, I can't do it anymore. It's impacting my ability to do my job. I don't want to come to work anymore. I'm making up excuses not to come to work. I'm driving home every day crying. And it was just, I didn't understand. I would call my colleagues and my professors and my mentors every day and explain, this is what's going on, this is what's happening, and not wanting to admit that the common denominator here is the fact that I'm Black, and not wanting to admit that even though I just went to school, even though I am educated, I'm skilled, I know what I'm doing, I'm still having to deal with these issues that I never had to deal with before until I became a professional. I didn't understand it. I didn't know how to navigate it. I didn't know what to do. Long story short, they ended up accusing me of doing something that I didn't do, something that I wasn't trained to do. But remember, logs are being kept all the time. They are searching for something to get me in trouble, and they finally found something. So at that point, I was like, you know what? I can't do it anymore. I wrote like a 3 to 4 page letter documenting all the harassment and discrimination I had been dealing with for the year and a half that I was there. I went to a discrimination lawyer who told me I had a case, and I resigned from that job. After that, I ended up graduating with my master's degree and decided to move to Texas. It was still going to be close to my family. It seemed progressive, and yeah, my first job there was probably one of the best jobs I had. It was working in a clinic with kids, some adults. I had great supervisors, great coworkers. It was a wonderful experience. But after I left that job and transitioned to the medical side of the field, that's when we pretty much had a repeat of the same situation from the first job. My clinical judgment was constantly questioned by nurses and other healthcare professionals in the nursing homes where I worked. I was constantly watched, micromanaged, followed around to see if I was seeing my patients. I was always confused for the janitor or, anything but an actual professional. There was one job where there was an older white guy who, of course, they always make it known that they don't want you there. And, I said, you know what? I know what to do now. I'm just going to ignore it. I'm going to write down everything he's doing, and I'm just going to go on about my day. But he made it really difficult for me until one day he decided that he was going to walk in and kick my things. Literally walked in, kicked my stuff, everything flew out. And now I have to decide, what are we going to do? Are we going to be professional, or are we going to be everything but that? And I ultimately decided I'm going to be professional. I'm going to report him to my superiors. Because I had had that experience at my first job, I knew how to navigate this one a little more. So I ended up reporting him. He ended up getting fired. But then that didn't stop because you just keep dealing with it. You keep dealing with it with other professionals. And then I left that job. I went to another one and dealt with the same thing and dealt with the same thing and dealt with the same thing. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to go to the schools. I'm going to actually move to California, the liberal state. And hopefully I have a better experience. No. Things did not change. I started working in the school districts where things definitely did not get any better. If anything, it got worse. My clinical judgment, of course, always questioned. I've been called a liar. I've had things thrown at me. Parents always love to say,
"The last therapist was so wonderful."
Almost to disregard you and everything that you're doing and attempting to do for their children. I go to meetings and it's like, who are you? What are you doing? You know, where did you go to school? Who taught you? And it's like you are disregarded and degraded and reduced to nothing. And it sucks because it's like, I just want to do my job, you know? I just want to wake up every day and try my best to make gains for you, your clients, your families. You start to feel like you're not even in control of your own job. You're not in control of what you're doing because people think that because of this, you don't know anything. So they have to guide you. They have to tell you. They have to question it. It was more microaggressions. It was more micromanagement. And it was like, okay, maybe I need to work for myself to get rid of this red tape, to get rid of having to deal with coworkers and deal with parents who don't believe in me or think I'm good enough or that I know enough. So maybe if I, work for myself and I can control who I see and don't have to work with anyone, maybe things will change. When I decided I was going to go into business for myself, I knew that I wanted to monopolize myself somehow. So I thought, you know what? Let me go back to school and get a clinical doctorate. There aren't a lot of therapists who have their clinical doctoral degrees. There aren't a lot of therapists with their doctoral degrees in general. What a good way to monopolize myself in the business. And maybe when people see Dr. Jonathan, they will think, oh, he's smart. Nope. Most recently, I had a client scheduled for home health. This family, they sought out the services. They wanted speech therapy. They wanted an evaluation done. So I came in, I did the eval. And the whole time that I'm there, I'm getting the side eye. I'm getting the stares. I'm getting the, okay, what are you doing? So after the evaluation, we go over the results and I'm like, okay, therapy's needed. This is going on, A, B, C, D. And they were like, so you have to come back? Did y'all not seek out the services? Like, what's going on? So they told me that I wasn't needed anymore. Then, like maybe a couple weeks ago, I was scheduling services for an early intervention kid, a kid who isn't talking. And I called the parent and they were excited. They were ready for me to come. I explained to them, I have my clinical doctorate. I have my degrees. I'm skilled. I know what I'm doing. You have to go through these things because when you get there and they see this, they're thinking, he doesn't know what he's doing. I called to schedule the services and, he's excited. Dad's talking. I'm like, okay, I'm going to call you in a couple of days to confirm the appointment times and then I'll be on my way. Call back. I'm explaining what I do, my degrees that I have, how skilled I am, and they were excited. So at the end of the conversation, Dad says, wait, before you go, I don't know how to ask this, but can I get your information? And I'm thinking, what? What do you mean information? He's like, I guess I said, are you asking, how skilled I am? Like, I've been doing this for 3 years. I have my clinical doctorate degree. I have my master's and my bachelor's degrees. Like, I've been doing this for a while. I know what I'm doing. I'm skilled. And he's like, yeah, but what part of Los Angeles do you live in? I'm like, what? What do you mean? He's like, do you live in Glendale, Compton, Inglewood? And I'm like, okay, why is this important? And he says, well, for security reasons, I guess I just want to know what you look like. And from then on is when I realized I've been working in this profession for 8 years. I have 3 degrees, and it's still not enough. And you just, I'm sorry. And you realize that your skin color is always going to get in the way of what you're able to do. And doesn't matter how skilled you are, how professional you are, how educated you are, it's never going to be enough. And what am I doing with my life? Why am I waking up every day to deal with this? Why am I waking up every day to have to confront racism? I'm not an activist. I'm a speech pathologist. My job is this, but I have to deal with that. And it gets in the way. And I just got to the point where I was like, you know what? I'm good. I am good. You know, I have other gifts. I have other talents. I have other passions. I am good enough. I know my worth. I don't have to deal with this. And it's unfortunate, I know. But at the end of the day, when you realize something isn't changing, you have to change the situation in another way. When you realize something isn't changing, maybe you have to change. Maybe you have to step out and do something different. There are 3 of the most powerful quotes that I've ever heard in my life. The first one is, no one is going to fight for you the way you are going to fight for yourself. And what that means is, you cannot wait for anyone to change your situation. You can't wait for people to take you out of something or to fight for you, or this big giant to come along and fight you. It's not going to happen. You have to stand up and do it yourself. No one's going to do it the way you're going to do it, so do it yourself. The second quote is, God has entrusted me with me. He has given me this life to have purpose, to have meaning, to have intent, and I'm supposed to wake up every day and live it to my fullest. I want to live my best life. He wants me to live my best life. So why am I waking up every day to feel miserable, to be unhappy, to be upset and pissed and hurt, and to be disregarded and reduced to nothing? Why am I waking up and doing that every day? And the last quote is, we are not trees. If you want to move, move. And that is the quote that I've always lived by, but it's really time to step out on something different. It's really time to make a move in another direction away from this. And before other people get into my comments and write me and say things like, you know, I deal with this in my profession too, and I'm white and or I'm not a person of color. While that may be true, I want you to add the extra layer of this. I want you to add the extra layer of being black or a person of color, and just try to imagine what we deal with on top of that. So what now? I am transitioning out of my career. I feel like it was the best decision I could have ever made. I feel good. I wake up every day knowing that I don't have to deal with the same BS, and it feels good. I have taken a job working with an entertainment lawyer as his personal assistant. That's been an experience. I definitely want to talk about that in later videos. And you know, I'm transitioning out of my career. I'm still working in it a little bit, but for the most part, done with it. And hopefully I can be done with it, but bills still have to be paid. But I definitely want to talk about in later videos how to navigate these situations that I've dealt with, and situations that people may also be dealing with. How to navigate racism, how to navigate microaggressions and discrimination and micromanagement, and to help people empower themselves to live their life to the fullest and put yourself first. You know, sometimes we think clocking in is better than peace of mind. And I'm here to tell you that's not the case. It doesn't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter how much achievement you have in your career, it's not going to be enough if you don't feel fulfilled doing what you're doing. I am here to tell you, after making 6 figures, after running a successful business, after going to the highest possible level in my career, it was never enough. It never made me feel fulfilled, and it definitely didn't make me feel good that I had to deal with the BS on the side. So guys, thank you so much for sticking around and watching this video. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to my channel, and there will be more videos to come. Bye.